All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you, everyone. I am delighted that we could get this Friday show off more or less on time. Maybe a little less than more.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
Isn't that great? I am so excited to be with my best friend, Kim McAllister. She is my rock. Yes, and Albert is here today for a special edition, a special Friday edition of the show. And we find ourselves in the middle of so much fun stuff. One of the fun things that we've been doing is the Spring Ka-Ching, everybody. I know. Spring Ka-Ching, named by Tom in our audience for the fundraiser that we have to embark upon here as spring wraps up. We go with a fundraising blitz. So if you feel in the mood at any point during our following 2 hours, you can join in the Spring Ka-Ching, and we'll show you all the ways in which you can, in addition to the super chats and super stickers, that sort of thing. Patreon and PayPal under every video. Lots to do today. Michael Shure, hour 2, Florida, hour 1, and Snyder, the culture blaster, in hour 2 also. So let's get it on. So excited for 100 days of Donald Trump. We'll look back. It's been such an adventure already. A lot of people didn't think you could take apart a country this quickly. But they didn't know the crew that Donald Trump was going to come in with. Got to change things. It's a radical change. Americans were getting too happy. They were complaining about the price of eggs, the price of fuel. Well, let me show you some real stuff you can complain about. Donald Trump and his pals move in. Now it's a whole new game, isn't it? That's right.
Sure is. Yep.
You wait 6 months, you'll have some real crap to complain about. I'm excited. This guy Trump has really lit me up. And it's not just me. The world.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
I love a president who likes to get his ass kissed. There, I just said it. There it is. All right. What to do, Kim? So much. I was so buoyed, as you know, when the Lord can enlist the help of one of the mortal handservants of the Lord. It's always exciting. And when that handservant can have a couple of million followers and a huge syndication deal that was spawned by the appearance that he first made on the Oprah Winfrey Show, when that can happen, that's divine intervention. And that, I believe, is what we're seeing.
You know what America's about?
I don't know. I don't know what America's about anymore, to be perfectly honest. I'm taking a meeting from you as to what America's about.
It's about God, it's about guns, and it's about Dr. Phil.
All right. I like that. I'll take that. Sure. Why not? Yes. Thank you, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
So
USA.
Kim, I'm picking up a little bit of mockery in your tone. I don't necessarily appreciate it, especially when Dr. Phil and religious liberty are involved. Dr. Phil is the head of the new Religious Liberty Commission, everyone. Yes, you knew that, you can never have too many commissions. And how about one on religious liberty? Well, Dr. Phil, whose full name is Dr. Phil McGraw, joining my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, in the White House grounds for a celebration. It's in the Rose Garden in honor of the creation of not the world, not the universe, but of the Religious Liberty Commission. Yes.
So they have someone that's Jewish on that commission and someone that's Buddhist on that commission, and they have someone that's Muslim on that commission. Is that right?
This is it's such a cute thing to say, Kim. I don't blame you. But there's only one real God. Okay, so
Oh.
you can if you want to mess around with a lot of these other faiths, you can. It's so cute.
Yeah.
But we know there's only one true Savior. So let's quickly go to Dr. Phil and his remarks during the Rose Garden ceremony yesterday.
Is here, and he's a man of religion, but I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening.
Stop
nobody
1
watching.
second, Albert, because I would
And
like to relate a personal recollection of Dr. Phil. And you can start, we only heard several seconds, so you can start again from the beginning when I stop this. So I just want to relate this one thing that I do remember quite clearly. There was a guy named Pat O'Brien. He was a famous sportscaster, hosted Access Hollywood, I think, for a while. He did a lot of different things, very versatile, very smart, and very successful. He got caught in an audio recording soliciting a stripper, I think she was, to be in a threesome with his wife or his girlfriend, and he was also way into cocaine. And that was sort of laid bare again as a result of this recording. So he was doing a rehabilitation tour, trying to rehabilitate his image that had been damaged by this recording being released. So this guy, Pat O'Brien, goes on an hour-long primetime offering with Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil at the time, white hot. He could rehabilitate, most likely, the damaged reputation of Pat O'Brien. And the last thing that Dr. Phil said, and I remarked on it to several people who had seen it, the last thing he said at the end of this hour primetime special to rehabilitate Pat O'Brien was this. He said, I've watched you interact with people when there are no cameras around.
Oh.
I've seen you, and I've been so impressed by the kind of man you are. And others won't see it because it's not on camera. But I saw it, and you were an amazing man. Well, that's a really great endorsement because it presumes a bunch of stuff not in evidence, right? but it's sort of like, wow, I mean, I guess he's right. So that was their parting shot. And I thought of that as I've just heard these words. Now, Albert, play me the Dr. Phil dance, the same dance he did for Pat O'Brien, he does for Donald Trump.
Is here, and he's a man of religion, but I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening, nobody watching, and I'm telling you, this is a man of deep faith, a man of deep conviction, and this is a man that wants this country to have a heart and have religion. And God bless America for giving us President Donald Trump. And
bless America.
When nobody's listening and nobody's looking, this man cares about every single person in America, independent of race, color, creed, whatever. And it comes from the heart with him. And I am proud to call him my president. And God bless you, Mr. President. God bless you. God bless you.
I'm sorry, but I mean, just I'm calling BS on most.
When millions of people watch my interviews.
No, I know. I'm very impressed.
When it's tens of millions. With me, it's millions. You're 10x whenever I talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Well, it's
God bless America. The end.
How do you go there? Because Dr. Phil at one point was not a Trumper. He was someone who came out speaking against Trump. And I wonder what happens to you that you swing completely the other way and, as they say, drink the Kool-Aid and now become this MAGA guy. Like, what happened in between there? Did someone offer him a bundle of cash?
There is a quality of wanting to be relevant, wanting to be in the conversation. I look at a lot of these people who are in the Trump administration, this billionaires boys club of cabinet officials, of lobbyists who are now running organizations in government that they have been suing for years. And I think these are people who want to be in the conversation. Why does Marco Rubio preside over the dismantling of the State Department when it's actually something that he craved doing? He wanted to be Secretary of State. He wanted to make a difference. Instead, as you may have seen in the last day, the announcement's been made that we're going to close down all of the American embassies and our presence in Africa. The continent of Africa. You're just going to surrender it. This is where the Belts and Roads initiatives of China has existed to try to, that's the soft power, warm up, if you will, that continent for more connection with the Chinese. And that same kind of thing was being done with the Americans. We've had that and that kind of relationship all over Latin America and Africa and Asia. But this is the new vision. It's an isolationist vision of the future. But Marco Rubio, to my point, so wants to be in the game that he's ready to be in the game as an enforcer instead of as a scorer. It's a weird time we live in. You realize how much ego is associated with this and how much the ends justify the means is associated with this. Why can so many politicians who know better, I mean GOP politicians, countenance what's happening right now because they see power and they see a reshaping of America that they might be okay with. The rise of Christian nationalism isn't something that they are so against. So same with Dr. Phil. He wants to be in the conversation. Great show, Mark. An all-star cast says KAI. Look at this, a $100 contribution to the show through the super chat. Great show, Mark. An all-star cast of knowledgeable guests and the most distinguished voice in news. And you're pretty good as well.
Now that's a spring ka-ching right there.
That was it's part of our spring ka-ching kickoff. We just started it yesterday. We're trying to do all we can, and KAI, there it is. There's the ka-ching. Thank you, KAI. I think it's KAI, isn't it?
KAI, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just checking.
You could say Kai.
You could, yeah.
But I think it's KAI.
Okay. Yeah. There it is. And Lee Kopp, Eileen and I have been listening and watching since day one. Keep it going, gang. A $50 super chat. Wow. Lee and Eileen are OGs of this show, without question.
Thank you, you guys.
Yeah,
really,
really cool. Really needed. Thank you. It's finally Friday, Mark. You've got the best screeds. Thank you, Harry, for the $10 super chat. I will keep the screeding coming. And thank you. Congrats to Green Day on their new star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and very nice that it's in front of Amoeba Records, whose home is Berkeley. That's correct, Luis. Great catch. They're a Bay Area crew, and Amoeba is amazing. You can lose yourself for a weekend in there. Shaylin Thompson, one of my favorite last names. A $10 super sticker. Thank you for being part of Spring Ka-Ching. Yes. Love it.
Maybe Shaylin is my favorite Thompson.
Shaylin can be your favorite Thompson. I love the name Shaylin, by the way, in addition to loving the name Thompson. And I have no problem. If you want to, I never thought I was in the hunt to even be in the top 5 favorite Thompsons for you. So go for Shaylin. Trevor Starr in Hollywood with a 10 super chat. Ka-ching, he says. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Big shout out to everybody. Kelly Malloy, another one. OG of the show. Thank you for the buck. Big shout out. Thank you for being part of things. Really appreciate the help as we are on our fund drive to try to keep this show on the air. David Bowman, not about money, but about this comment. Thankfully, tens of millions of Christians reject the Christo-fascism of Trump and his MAGA cult. It is true that David's not wrong. I mean, just because you're Christian, just because you may very much be devoted to the words of Jesus Christ or of all of the splinter churches that have come from the mainstream of Christianity, doesn't mean in any way that you embrace Christo-fascism or Trump and the MAGA cult, as David Bowman has said. There are many Christians who view this as an abomination, who are seeing what's happening with the country and see this rise of kind of a radical right-wing fascist view, meaning kind of authoritarian, you must believe this will be taught in the schools kind of view of Christianity as antithetical to a lot of the teachings of Jesus. But again, then you get into almost a theological conversation, and you lose, I think, in the specifics, you lose the bigger battle. These people are in power. This is their agenda, and they will follow through and get it. And so yes, as David says, thankfully, tens of millions reject it. But it'll be a crisis for those tens of millions because there is a momentum to what's happening in Washington, and it's real. And there's a legislative momentum, and there's a philosophical momentum, I would say, with the people in power very much embracing the kind of Christo-fascism that we're seeing. Lucy McAllister, my favorite McAllister, with a $50 super sticker. Wow. I love Lucy McAllister. Thank you for participating in Spring Ka-Ching, baby.
Girl, you just woo.
You are just woo. And Kim, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
When I embrace Lucy as my favorite, that doesn't mean you're not very close to my heart.
Isn't there a Dr. Phil a drop that sounds a lot like that?
This is a man with anger. This is a man that has resentment towards you.
Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it doesn't mean that we're not something.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
Yeah,
There you go.
I see. That's very good that Kim knew a drop. I'm very impressed by.
Sometimes I pay attention to the show. It's it happens on occasion.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you play the drops long enough, even you, who in the main ignore the show, you do begin to get it in you. I think you've really picked up on the show in the last 6 months or so. I really do.
Dr. Phil and this whole religious task commission, religious liberty commission.
Yeah.
One of the things Trump said was that it's a celebration or whatnot of the foundational religion of the country.
Okay.
Which, we're going back to, this country was founded on the Christian religion.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you ask someone who's of a different faith, let's say you're Jewish, and you got Christmas break every year at school, and you can't step into a store without Christmas carols. I celebrate Christmas. I'm not complaining about it. I just don't really feel like Christianity needs to be protected. I think this country does a pretty good job at the whole Christianity thing. That that's kind of has been our focus all along. So to have a religious liberty task force is ridiculous. That's the last thing we need, unless you want your religious task force to protect people of other faiths, so we can rise everyone up to the same level and we can have equity in religion. But that's absolutely not what we're doing.
Well, you're making the mistake of somehow intellectually evaluating what's going on with this administration when there's absolutely no explanation whatsoever. In fact, most of what they do is completely indefensible. So when you talk about a commission to protect religious liberty, again, it's Orwellian, the choice of labels and names for these agencies, because it is almost by definition going to be the opposite. In this case, they'll take away a lot of religious liberty. And when I say that, I mean, it does seem like, oh, come on, Mark, what are you saying? Well, what I'm saying is that, as Kim sort of noted, it's a singular vision of religious liberty on the one hand. That is to say, there's been an exclusionary aspect to this. They're not including all of these different, priests, rabbis, and mullahs, etc. Right? It's just it's Dr. Phil and his crew.
Yeah.
But I'd also say the
Carson, also on
the more concerning thing is that you have now federal money that's very much likely to be directed toward private institutions, charter schools specifically. These are schools that are teaching a strict religious doctrine. The test case is Oklahoma, which is appearing now before the Supreme Court. The test case is, and we talked about it yesterday with David Katz. And I really feel as though this separation of church and state, these federal monies that would now be poured into these institutions that are teaching God. It's really antithetical, once again, to what this country is all about. So when we talk about how the country was founded or what the precepts were, the basic tenets behind America, certainly one of them is the separation of church and state. But you've heard over and over again from Marjorie Taylor Greene on, I think that's an overrated thing. I think even Trump waffled on it. Again, Trump's just riffing it in the moment. He's the kid who hasn't read the homework, just talking about stuff. You heard him talking about the Declaration of Independence? Do you have that, Albert? The tour, prior to the Terry Moran interview, he kind of let the ABC cameras roam around the Oval, as he kind of described. Look at what I've done. Look at these people. And again, I'll give Trump credit if he did something that he should do. It's just that you got to admit, he seems pretty shallow. And there are moments where it really comes through. But let me say one last thing, because I don't want to be gratuitous in my criticism, but I just feel as though he's deserving, and this administration is deserving of it. You can be shallow. You can be someone who isn't super well read, who may not understand all the levers of government, et cetera. If you surround yourself with good people, and you have a basic philosophy that sparks with the American people and could lead to a brighter future, and you do ask advisors and competent people to give you their honest impressions, through that process, you might actually come up with decent policy. That's not what we have here. You have someone who is completely shallow. So when I say he's shallow, I don't want you to think like just because he's shallow, honestly, I don't disqualify him based on that. I disqualify him based on the fact that he has populated government with a bunch of people who are there just to be yes men and yes women. And as a result, his worst instincts, and that's all he's got since he doesn't know anything, as I say, he's completely shallow, are all enabled by a Congress that he has cowed and by those around him that only say yes. And so that's where we end up. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, even shallow, one-dimensional people. But the other part of Trump that's so hard for me is the corruption. The corruption is just on display in such a big way. And so a party that has that, I get it. Both parties are corrupt. The process is corrupt. There is money in politics. There are corrupt Democrats. Menendez is serving time right now, and his wife as well. I've got no patience for any of them either. But what we have now is a presidency for sale, and you have on full display through the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world all the ways in which billions of dollars can be funneled into this presidency and to this president and his family, and it is completely unchecked. It's unprecedented in all of American history. Surfing Tumbleweed with a $10 super chat. My mom is a devout Presbyterian, and she thinks the orange S-bird is the Antichrist, and Elon is the devil. So not all is lost. Sorry for insulting birds with this comment. Surfing Tumbleweed. Thank you. Yeah, as we say, it is, and thank you, Surfing Tumbleweed, for being part of Spring Ka-Ching on this show. Ron Cook with a $20 super sticker. What up, Ron?
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you. Really do appreciate it. Brandy B, part of the big show today.
Big shout out.
If you missed it, we explained that it is Spring Ka-Ching, a big fundraising push we're making here at the end of spring, and Brenda B is part of it. Thank you, Brenda B.
Girl, you just woo.
You are woo. James Bliss with a $20 super sticker too. Thank you.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to help keep the show on the air. Speaking of that, thank you. This is what I was just about to get to. Luis with a $5 super chat. Rest in peace, federal funding for NPR and PBS. Very sad. Thank you for the super chat, and it's exactly what I was going to segue to. Trump is committed, and the administration is committed to defunding NPR and PBS, and now he has just signed an executive order to do so. I might add, I'm laughing because I don't think, and you can Google this and tell me whether I'm right or wrong.
Google it.
The funding for NPR and PBS, first of all, the bulk of the funding does not come through from the government or the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It comes through private donations and viewers and listeners like you. But the reality is that you can't, as president, sign an executive order to defund NPR. You can suggest it to Congress. I don't think NPR's funding comes to the executive office. There it is. Dave, Trump can't pull their funding. It's already been allocated by Congress. Thank you. I feel like I'm at one with the audience right now. Like what I'm saying, they're saying. It's very exciting. This is something going on here. Yeah. No more Big Bird. How dare they, says Vanessa Pacheco. Vanessa, I'm with you. I hear the funding for NPR and PBS is going to go towards sponsoring Joel Osteen's religious broadcasts, says Randy. Yeah. Yeah, if Big Bird could wear a cross, I think that maybe NPR and PBS could last longer. Yeah, if he would lead in prayer at the beginning of every broadcast. Lucy McAllister, Dr. Phil, what a bunch of BS. Yeah. The government should give more money, not less, to NPR, PBS, says Just Give Me the Truth. Yeah, wouldn't you like to see it? I mean, the truth is the GOP has been out to get NPR and PBS for some time. I mean, it's been threatened since, I want to say, since the 80s. They're going to cause an inverse reaction, and PBS funding will soar. Maybe, says Yowza. I hope so. Hope, yeah, I hope so too. I think they do really great work. Really do appreciate it. And here it is. Both PBS and NPR don't get the majority of their funding from the federal government. John Slade says now what I was saying before.
I read yesterday that it's 15% of their funding is federal.
So, I mean, that's not a lot, right? But I mean, look, it's not nothing when you're dealing with budgets of that size. Trump can do anything with executive orders. Tomorrow, the sun will rise in the west. He can sign an executive order to that. That's right. Thank you, Harry, for the $5 super chat. It is true. Some of these are performative. Many of them are performative. But the mark 51627. There are two people in my family that are super into numerology. So I go, hey, we'll meet at like 2 o'clock on the 5th. And they go, oh, no, I can't meet at 2 o'clock on the 5th.
Really?
Why? Well, if you add 5 and 2, it's
spooky.
7.
No.
And 7. And then they say, no, 7, you have to understand the 7 sisters and then the different, it's like, oh, dude, okay, let's meet at 2:30. The mark 51627. So I don't know what the numerology is there. Probably just some random thing, but thank you for the $5 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Yes, indeed. Thank you for being part of Spring-ka-ching. Yeah. No funding for NPR and PBS, Vilma says. There goes Sesame Street. Love that show. Yeah, again, it hasn't happened yet, so don't worry. But thank you for the $5 super chat, Vilma, and you are an OG of this show. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. So, anyway, that's a little bit of everything from Dr. Phil to NPR. The son of the president has launched a members-only club. The name? Executive Branch. Yeah, it's called Executive Branch. Okay. This from the DC Eater, where they tell you about restaurants and review different restaurants. It's an invite-only club called the Executive Branch. It will open, quote, sometime in the next month at a location in Georgetown. No food and beverage details are available. The location itself is a mystery so far. Then they go into sort of some Washington stuff. But there was a city tavern club which went on the market last year as an old school kind of location. It opened in 1796. That in Georgetown. The founding fathers were there, hung out. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington were guests. So this particular offering from the president's son would be $500,000 to join. If you want to be a member, it's $500,000. And it's owned. they have a real spring-ka-ching going over there, man. Yeah. So
well played, Albert.
This is again another play for direct pipelines into big money that's flowing into the Trump administration. This goes right into the Trump coffers. As I say, the organization is run by Trump's son. And
so who can join this club?
I guess it's. I mean, you can be reviewed. I'm assuming now you just can be reviewed by a a board of elders, who look at, like any private club, you have to fill out an application and you have the money, $500,000. They look at your associations, et cetera, and then you're in.
What's the mission of the executive branch? What's the point of this club?
Well, I mean, it's a club. It's a members-only club. So, the mission can be anything from, hanging out and having a scotch after a long day of talking to lobbyists, or,
So
busting open champagne for somebody's birthday party. It doesn't have to be, it's not a church. There's not to be a stated, right?
Perhaps would it be paying $500,000 or more for access to the president?
Well, this is exactly what's going on.
Right.
The more ways in which you money the Trumps, the more ways in which you get audience and even legislative action from the Trumps. Brian says Mark needs a $500,000 Mark Thompson Show club too.
Yeah, we do.
Boy, that would be great. If we could get one member at that level, we'd never have to ever ask for money again.
For the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
I was watching, I think it was either Colbert or Kimmel last night, and they were saying about this club, that's exactly what the Trumps accused Hunter Biden of doing, selling access via, business people and whatever to the president. And here it is in this blatant form, the executive branch, we're selling you access to the president for $500,000.
Well, the hypocrisy, never in short supply.
They say meet business leaders and politicians, and this is part of the mission of the club, is we're going to facilitate these meetings between all these high rollers, heavy influence kind of people. But that's what it is. That's what it is.
I mean, if you look at Trump, the first 4-year term, the Trump Hotel was the place that was done. And in the Mark Leibovich book, he has a great, at the beginning of the book, just this kind of scene that he paints with all of what you're talking about, which included people who wanted stuff done, people who were shakers and movers, people who were guaranteeing things or looking for guarantees from the Trump administration, all meeting there in some way, or indeed using the hotel, renting rooms in the hotel, renting floors in the hotel, as the T-Mobile company did prior to their merger going through, as the Saudis did, both at the Trump Hotel in Washington and also at some of his the Bedminster property and the one in Scotland as well. They rented entire floors. They had no intention of anyone ever staying there. It was just a way of getting money into the Trump organization. So what you're talking about is the new version, Trump 2.0. This is the club. The crypto, though, is off the charts with a way to pour money into the Trump family. So
get this, the waiting list for new members for the executive branch is now closed. So a lot of people are signing up for this. There's not even a spot on the waiting list for you, Mark. I'm sorry if you missed out on this. Yeah. You can take your $500,000 and you know what you can do with it.
Well, yeah, I guess
what?
I do. They're not hiding anything, Myra says. Myra's a great name, too. That's like one of those old school names. I love that. Myra says they're not hiding anything because they know nothing ever happens to them. I mean, there's a truth to that, too.
Absolutely.
There just is no enforcement of some of the basic restrictions on a chief executive. I mean, somebody I saw some here wrote, what happened to the emolument clause, which anyway, now I can't really find it. But the emoluments clause is only as good as those charged with enforcing it. And even the emoluments clause, I used to argue with my dad about this because my dad's a constitutional lawyer, and he'd go, it's a harder case probably to press against the president than you think. It looks obvious, but once you get into a courtroom and you kind of get into the hand-to-hand combat in a courtroom, it might be hard. I mean, I think now you are in an area that really seems demonstrably corrupt. I mean, everything from, the crypto, this isn't a team that's divesting themselves of interest. This is a team that's acquiring interest that then can be exploited for their own personal gain.
They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Yeah, it's pay to play, exactly, as Cousin Erie says. This is Sausalito Steve. Mark Thompson is my favorite Thompson. Thank you, Sausalito Steve. I love that Sausalito. Who do we have in Vicky in Sausalito too,
Yeah,
right?
Vicky too.
Love Sausalito, which is just
Yeah.
north of San Francisco for those who don't know. Right over the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a cute little community, beautiful. Looks back over the city of San Francisco. Anyway,
We got another name change.
what's that?
Say goodbye to Veterans Day.
I saw this, Kim. It looks like Donald Trump's come up with a better name for
Yeah.
Veterans Day, right?
Yeah, it's not. When you say
Let me
Veterans
guess.
Day,
Donald Trump's Veterans Day. Is that what it's
No,
called now?
that's
No.
actually a really good guess, but no, he wants to rename it. He is renaming it Victory Day for World War One. It doesn't have the same ring.
Not
It's
catchy.
as
I'm
like
surprised.
celebrating all of our veterans, He says to start celebrating our victories again.
Mm.
So, and in
I
his
mean,
defense,
I didn't think Veterans Day implied anything victory or loss. It just implied honoring the memories of those who've passed and honoring
that's
those
Memorial
in
Day.
life who gave.
That's Memorial Day, right? This is Veterans Day.
No. Veterans Day. Well, Veterans Day was born after World War I. There's no question about that. He's right about that.
It used to be Armistice Day.
Okay, all right.
Right? Yeah.
Sure. Okay, either way. But my point is that it morphed into Veterans Day, which sort of recognizes all who have served. Isn't that right?
Every veteran who has served, yes.
Right.
Living or past.
I mentioned those who've fallen because I think increasingly that is included on that day. But you're right if you just want to say, no, it's not for them. I don't care about the people who've fallen. It's only veterans who are still alive. If that's your position, Kim, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
But my position is it's all veterans. Okay. Living and those who passed. Memorial Day obviously is for those who've made the supreme sacrifice. Right, Kim?
That's right.
But he's not renaming Memorial Day.
It's not yet.
He's only renaming Veterans Day.
That's right. He said,
yeah,
we won wars. He said, this is, we did more than any other country in producing a victorious result in World War II, that no one comes close to us in terms of strength, bravery, or military brilliance. But he said, we never celebrate anything. That's because we don't have leaders anymore that know how to do so. We are going to start celebrating our victories again.
Well, I'd say that
roll the tanks, Mark.
He's right in a way about the fact that we don't celebrate anything like that, because that is antithetical to the general way in which we have conducted business as a military, which is walk softly and carry a big stick. Now, we don't walk as softly as we used to. I'd suggest maybe we don't walk softly at all anymore. But that was the idea, that you don't have big military parades and you don't have big shows of military force, because everyone knows of America's power. Everyone can see all of the military bases all around the world, all of the areas of military action, all the theaters of war, everything from Iraq to the Middle East, beyond Iraq, to the proxy wars. I mean, Ukraine is probably the most recent example. So all I would say about a military parade or the way, if you want to now frame things in terms of victory, is it just goes against the general profile of the U.S. I guess we've had a certain, I'm going to use the word class about it, maybe, understated quality to the way we've done things. But obviously, Donald Trump and this administration has a kind of in-your-face quality. Everything's in your face. We're strong. I mean, they're like the bullies on the playground, and you see it in every way. But so, is this going to happen? This Veterans Day thing is going to change?
Yeah.
Wow. Zoe Rose says, "I love when you have David K. Johnston on. The Trump administration filed an emergency appeal to SCOTUS in Schilling versus Trump. I'm a trans service member." Wow. Zoe, thank you for the $5 super chat. And I have to tell you, the trans community, they are dining out on this one wedge issue. The GOP is so committed to this issue, and it is an extremely effective one for them. So even as this is litigated and SCOTUS has to weigh in on it. My heart breaks for the legitimate needs of a trans community that is already pushing uphill against such a tough life struggle. And it pains me to see them make this minority community such a mainstream front and center issue when there are so many other things in this country that demand attention. I mean, this just, yeah, sorry.
I was going to say thank you for your service, Zoe Rose, and I'm sorry you're going through this crap.
Yeah, that's another way to say it. Thank you. Louis says, damn it, Mark, you can't celebrate suckers and losers. They make Orange Jesus look bad, especially those that lost limbs. It is a bad look. It's a weird thing that Trump has this relationship with the military because he's been anything but supportive. I mean, to those who have made sacrifices and saying that I don't want those people in wheelchairs and who are, have other kinds of devices who look compromised physically. I don't want them in the front row at these events. It makes us look bad. Would much rather be lost in George Orwell's mind right now. Yeah, says Ryan R. Really, I mean, this is all Orwellian. Thank you, Ryan, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Adrienne Foster, how about it for a spring ka-ching, a $10 super chat. And this comment, defunding NPR and PBS is definitely a censorship move. It is part of taking over media. And taking over media is part of the plan. And so when you go after ABC, CBS, threatening Comcast with the pulling licenses, they're NBC. And when so many need the federal government, in the case of CBS, for the Paramount merger, you see the ways in which you can produce a censorship, right? You can cow the media. And so NPR, PBS is the easier way, right? Because they need your money. The other way that I would have thought more difficult is threatening these media organizations directly because of their corporate overlords that need the government and approval for various mergers and to keep the government essentially off their back from a tax standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint. Well, now you see the full power of the government being weaponized against those corporate overlords so that the overlords will clamp down on the news. So in a way, that is the censorship we see there. And with the NPR and PBS executive order, which of course means nothing, but it's a statement of intent, you see essentially the other way. So I guess it's a long way of me agreeing with you. I only have long ways to agree with you, and so I picked that one. Harry Magnan, who doesn't love sevens? How about a $7 super chat? Thank you, Harry. Spring ka-ching is ka-chinging. I do love it. Heidi Madden, $20 super chat. Glad you were back. Glad you were with us, Heidi.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. It's going well. And our Gordon, thank you for the super sticker.
Big shout
Heidi and Gordon and all of you who have risen to help us out for this spring fund drive. It is spring ka-ching, and we are ka-chinging with Cheryl and a $9 super sticker. Big shout out. And I thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
I am wondering if we should, I don't know. Let me get this one story in before we do Florida, Albert. Can we do the Mike Waltz story? Mike Waltz, we told you this, it had just broken yesterday. Kim broke the news that Mike Waltz is waltzing out of the White House and he's waltzing over to the UN.
Yeah.
Now, he's waltzing out of the White House because he's the guy who put together that signal chat thing and included the journalists from The Atlantic. But as we had mentioned at the time when the story first broke, this can't be their first rodeo putting these signal chats together. And as Kim noted, he wanted a special thing so he'd be able to use signal chat within the Pentagon. So clearly this is the way that they do business, is signal chat. Hexit, that is, yeah. So Waltz, though, part of this signal chat world, he's taking the hit. And this was captured, this is just this week. Waltz
At a cabinet meeting.
This is at that cabinet meeting where everybody's talking about, Mr. Trump, you're the greatest thing to ever happen to America. You know, there should be a parade for you every day, sir. While those things are being said, Waltz is looking down at his cell phone, and it is a Signal chat app conversation that he is part of. This is, again, just captured by cameras that were there in the cabinet room. So the good news is that he'll be able to take that Signal chat and it'll work well at his new home at the UN. And what's that?
Imagine you have this huge scandal where you make this massive blunder and you add the editor of The Atlantic to your wartime Signal chat. And it's uncovered and plastered all over the media, and you look like the world's biggest idiot. And you would think that this would cause you to delete the Signal app, right? You would think that maybe you would think twice. But there he is at a cabinet meeting doing the same thing that got him in trouble the last time.
Yeah.
Silly.
Well, Kim, players got to play is what I got to say. Yeah, there you go.
Right?
So he's headed over to the UN. But here's what people may not remember. At the UN, he'll have a bunch of responsibilities. It's essentially really being farmed out. Like, when they take those cops in the movies, Callahan, you're going to be on the traffic desk from now on. That's kind of like what they're doing to him.
Look at that's true. Norm says, what's with all the MAGA hats at the table? Look at them all. Did they pass them out to every one of the cabinet members has to have a MAGA hat?
What? You don't have MAGA hats at your meetings?
No, the Mark Thompson show meeting is not
inclusive. We don't because we're not meeting in the same room. But if we did, I'd have MAGA hats and caps available for everyone.
Wow.
I'm bad. I'm sorry.
Exactly. It's. I think it's a charming way to.
What can you tell us about the scene?
There are MAGA hats everywhere, Larry. A lot of MAGA hats.
What can you tell us about the scene?
So, who said that? Vance said Waltz's move to the UN was a promotion. Yes, that is. Karen Cooper says the hats all say Gulf of America.
What they say? Oh,
that's very good. Thank you. But what I was going to say is, he, believe it or not, will have to be confirmed for his position at the UN. So it's another chance for him to be sitting down in front of a bunch of senators, many of whom I understand they're MAGA or MAGA cooperative, but there are others up there who are going to grill him on not knowing what is private, not knowing what is classified, etc. So it's not going away.
Like Signal Gate hearings is what it's going to be.
Carol Ford say these red hats say Gulf of America, and they got a lot of that Gulf of America stuff. Yeah. Anyway, those aren't MAGA hats, says Harry Magnan. Those are thinking caps. I see. Wow. Thank you for explaining that. Ron Cook says, I couldn't bow down like that. I'd quit. Those are grown men. Let me say one thing about that, because, of course, I'm kind of with you, For example, I can make this channel infinitely profitable and super successful, quadruple the viewership, and honestly get a pipeline of money in here if I go full support the administration, rah MAGA. I absolutely could do it. But I'm with you. I couldn't do it. I mean, I just can't. Yeah, I can't. So Ron says, I couldn't bow down like that. I'd quit. I mean, I think you're right. It's kind of so humiliating to have to sit there and go, Mr. President, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to, to breathe the same air that you breathe. And it's so completely over the top and ridiculous. And it's almost funny. It's like a sketch. It really is. I think Albert had, points out all the time. The whole thing just feels sometimes like an SNL sketch. But, if you care about, as I was saying before, being relevant to the national conversation, having access to the chief executive and to some of the most powerful officials in the world, that's why you play ball and you get blinded by that access. That's a real thing. I mentioned it before in the first half hour, I think, in sort of an adjacent context, but that's what's going on there. The second thing that's going on there is transactional. If you care only about a transactional relationship with the chief executive and the cabinet, then you know that your power, the power conferred to you by being a cabinet official and putting on this kabuki theater of I'm so thankful for my association with you, Mr. President. If you know that that power allows you certain transactional relationships that you want and that you'll continue to have and you can exploit over the next few years, then it's worth it. And that's what's going on at that meeting. These are billionaires, powerful people financially. These are people who have power on the outside, but they want a different kind of power, and they want to be close to a different kind of power, and there are transactions that they want to see to over the next few years. That's what's happening in that cabinet room. So, and of course, there are a couple of true believers, I'm sure, but come on. Guy's a mess. People know he's a mess, but they, again, focus on being relevant, on the transactional nature of politics, and then ultimately the ends justify the means. So if they're into the rise of the Christo-fascism, the authoritarian nature of Trump's instincts, you know, to run this country the way it should be run, to keep the libs, the Democrats, the commies, the Marxists out, you know, you start to believe that stuff. And so that begins to infect your philosophical perspective as well. And there might be some of that in the room as well. So thank you for keeping me semi-sane through this political disaster. Catherine Charo with a $100 ka-ching, ka-ching, Albert.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Catherine. I want to give her the British thank you.
Thank you so much.
Spring ka-ching underway, and Catherine Charo has risen to the occasion.
Thank you,
all of you. You guys have been so generous. Lauren McAllister, who is now, what is it, Lauren, who is number 2, Lucy is number 1? How did that work?
Lucy is the mom and Lauren is the daughter.
Right, so it's 1 and 2, and Lauren McAllister with a $20 super sticker. Thank you very much. Spring ka-ching is going, and you are the ka-ching in my spring. Thank you, Lauren McAllister and the McAllister family. Our own Kim McAllister is here with a news segment that we might actually get to today.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
It is. I'm not saying we'll get to it now.
Oh, psych.
You're my favorite Cheryl with a C. That's true. Cheryl Massarelli is my favorite Cheryl with a C. How about a $20 super chat from my favorite Cheryl with a C? What a lovely audience we have. Really nice. Great. So appreciative for your generosity, for your support. We would not be here without you. Mark, will history hold Trump accountable to the truth, says Michael D., or will historians just want to move on and bury the embarrassment? This is an interesting question, and it really depends on so much. I mean, I'd say history won't hold Trump. Well, history should hold Trump accountable. I mean, the trail of breadcrumbs to Trump is so distinct that, of course, history will, I think, speak to how clearly Trump, Doge, Elon, etc., transformed government in the same way that the fires of Los Angeles transformed the Pacific Palisades and Altadena. I mean, utter destruction that has to be rebuilt. I really think that's what we're looking at. You're looking at a dismantling of government and a wanton destruction of government agencies that are critical to American life, Social Security, the Small Business Administration, the EPA, the Consumer Protection Agency. These are agencies that really do good for Americans. That's just a handful. I've left out, Medicare. The idea somehow that you could dismantle all of that so quickly, so aggressively, taking away all the inspectors general. You care so much, supposedly, about corruption and about weaponizing this and weaponizing that, and about waste and abuse and fraud, right? You care so much about it that you got rid of all the inspectors general? I mean, that's, again, antithetical to the whole idea. they're the cops on the beat. So you're getting rid of the cops. You're getting rid of the cops at the consumer agency. You're getting rid of the advocates for Americans in all of these different agencies. There can be no doubt as to the way that history will view that. The question is, how long this continues, the damage that is done, the true economic damage that is coming, and then the history books will tell many different stories. There'll be a lot of different characters, the same way the histories are written around World War II, around the Iraq War, around Vietnam. I mean, these are other, you may say, they're not analogous. I mean, those are some of them. I understand that they're military aspects to the Iraq War, but there's a whole diplomatic and chessboard political relationship that was going on prior to our war in Iraq, and then the way we got involved in Iraq. So I mention that because I think we know a little something about that. And so history will be written from so many different perspectives inside and adjacent to all of that. Again, long, I hope, detailed answer to what you're saying or what you're suggesting about history. Yeah, history will tell a story. Then you'll get a varnished version of history, the way so many varnished editions of history have been written about all those things I've mentioned and more. Even slavery, you hear it now. I mean, there should be an unabashed apology with utter clarity about America's role in having slaves and how this nation was birthed with slaves as part of the DNA. But it's being reworked all the time, including right now. You just hear less and less about the true story from those who should know more and more about the true story, like J.D. Vance, talking about how the slaves developed skills, they actually benefited from this part, and the relationship with slavery is something that is misunderstood. I mean, I'm getting off on a tangent now, but you get the point. When you talk about history and the way it's written, it is written in many different ways by many different people. Wes says, Texas has solved all its problems, so it's cracking down on furries with the Furry Act to stop students from using litter boxes. Thank you, Wes.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
He's not wrong. There really is, believe it or not, legislation in Texas that is to stop this dressing up in the classroom and having litter boxes for the kids who want to. Yeah, you can, Albert, you can Google it. You can find it. There is a
Google it.
Yeah, there was even a state meeting in Texas at which one legislator was asked, well, how many examples of that in the classroom have you found? I mean, this is a piece of legislation we are writing to address a problem, but where is this problem being identified? And the answer was, well, the idea is that we will prevent this from happening through this legislation. Yeah, but where is it happening? He was asked. I get that we'll prevent it through, and the Furries Act would ban Texas students from using litter boxes in school. And there it is. Critics say it targets a problem that doesn't exist. It was first mentioned erroneously as something that happened. It was first invented as a thing that happened on the Joe Rogan show. And once Rogan mentioned it, the ripple effect was to create this impression that it was really happening. It wasn't. There's not even one real life example of it happening. And still, Texas students now have been banned from using litter boxes. And so what? Great, fine. The Furries Act. It's absurd. But again, it targets a problem that doesn't exist.
Well, having two kids, I will tell you that this makes no sense at all. School is a brutal place, and the last thing a kid wants to do is stand out by by going to the bathroom in front of people. It's just dumb. Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to the bathroom. If the whole thing's absurd. But Champagne Wishes says, have you been to San Francisco? There's nothing like that happening in San Francisco. There's nothing like that happening anywhere. It's total BS. But Scott says, I'm really good about using my litter box. I never miss. So there it does. I mean, and he doesn't need legislation. He's got it on his own. All right. Without any further delay, because I feel as though while we do like delaying, we can't delay any further. Albert, are you prepared? How would you characterize Florida today?
It's pretty good, depending on if Shure gets here quicker.
Okay.
We might cut it short. Well,
All
only
right.
3 stories. Yeah.
without any further, as I say, delays, it is time. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Well, it has happened, everyone. A Florida man arrested for having 3 wives in 3 different counties.
Oh, no.
I love it.
Did they know about each other?
The women say they were not. There are no shared pieces of information apparently between counties. So you can, in Florida, go and marry somebody in one county, marry somebody else in a different county. There's no way to know about it. So he's facing charges for marrying 3 Florida women in 3 different counties at the same time. These women are speaking out. There are no safeguards, they say. I feel like that's part of where the system failed, said one of the wives. He took each one of us to a county to get married, and if the counties talked, you'd save a lot of heartache.
Maybe he just likes a good wedding, you know?
You're right. I mean, there is a beautiful, it's a lifetime commitment between 2 or 3 people. The 3 Florida women learned that they were on the same journey with the same guy, Henry Betsy Jr. All of them learned at that same moment. They met him on Match.com. They quickly grew close, got married at the county courthouse after a quick courtship. It was short. It was very quick. It was within about a 3-week span, said one of the wives.
He is good looking.
Yeah, he is.
He's got the blue eyes.
Yes,
which really kind of make him stand out, against the skin. He's very interesting looking, beautiful looking person.
So you're giving him that's his booking photo. You're giving him a high number?
I would give him I'm going to give him a 9.5. Yeah.
Wow. That's
I know.
Man. All right.
Yeah. And clearly the ladies in Texas thought so too, because he was collecting wives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of 8s and 9s. Pretty incredible. Yeah. Well, he's a happy guy because he has all those women to go home to.
Yeah.
I've got Michael waiting, so I won't delay long on this. I won't linger long, but I do want to show you and draw your attention to the barefoot MMA fighter who wrestles an alligator along the Florida interstate.
What?
I know.
So many people sent me this story this week, I have to tell you.
Yes, it came from many sources, but we were so grateful. It was Jacksonville, Florida, where a barefoot MMA fighter, mixed martial artist, helped authorities wrangle a giant alligator in the median of Interstate 95. Wow. Here it is. You can see as he's signaling, man, this is the MMA guy. He doesn't seem to. He's wearing short pants for those who are just listening. And he does have one of those Wrangler's poles, which he did get. Now he's wrestling the alligator to load the alligator into the game warden's pickup truck, and he looks like a pretty happy, good old boy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, well,
I have to tell you, I kind of like him though.
Yeah, he seems like he's up for a good time.
Yeah, he is. he's kind of all dude, you know?
Yeah, there is that. Finally, a Florida man banned from Disney World after allegedly trying to sneak cocaine into the Magic Kingdom.
What?
I know. I mean, isn't it magic enough? That's apparently not for Dustin Lee Wallace. He wants a little extra magic, which you can only get with cocaine, everybody. He's been charged with possession of
world on the small world. It's a whole different experience.
Yeah, hurry up, man, hurry up.
A haunted house will really freak you out.
Well, it was 5:20 in the evening, and he and his son were at the Magic Kingdom. And they were in a security guard's line and were scanned with a metal detector. The scanner then set off an alert about Wallace's back pocket. According to a statement from the sheriff's office, it was a bulky wallet, and in it they found a bag of powdery white substances. There is his booking photo. Seems like a fine-looking young man when he's not cranked up on
He's
a
not
little. Yeah.
smuggling drugs into the happiest place on earth.
We must wrap up, and we must choose a favorite quickly. Again, the MMA fighter wrestling the alligator along the Florida interstate, the bulky, walleted Florida man who was sneaking cocaine into the Magic Kingdom, and without question, the Florida man having 3 wives does weigh in with some strength. Pick your poison, friends. Kim, please, your favorite.
Despite hot husband, I'm
Yes.
going for alligator wrangler because he's the hot guy of the day. Yeah.
Alligator Wrangler. I also like Alligator Wrangler. Albert, what led in the chat?
The gator wrestling guy.
Yeah.
It is
Really
a
like
Gator Wrestling Guy Day. Thank you, Albert, for Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
The Mark Thompson Show. How about it? How about it for a guy who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know? Michael Shure, thank you, sir. I know you have a hard out. You got to get out of here. You got places.
Yeah, but I mean,
to go.
not imminently. Well, we have time
okay,
to.
You've got some time. I didn't.
Yeah.
Really, thank you for being
It's
here.
not
You're generous
hello.
with your
I
time.
must be going. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
I want you to know, and I've mentioned this already, but I'll just mention it to you now, that I received a lot of static for you not having a coffee mug. So much static that I just want to give you like the rest of the coffee mugs, and never want to hear about it again. I thought it was a fun shtick, but apparently the listeners feel enough already. Give the guy a mug. So there is at least one mug coming in your future.
Well,
Tammy
I
says, "Look,
appreciate
it's the host of the show."
That's right. Well, it was an honor to keep your seat warm. We had some good guests. We had some good conversations. You were missed, and
you did have you very, very good series of shows. I watched a bunch live and then watched a bunch recorded also. So thank you again. Michael, there's a lot going on. We talked yesterday, about certain critical things that seem to be now introduced into the American zeitgeist that have kind of been verboten for a long time. I'll give you one example. In the Supreme Court with the federal funding of religious schools. I mean, this may be again, the court hasn't ruled completely on it, but it looks as though this might be the beginning of what had been something that would never have been sanctioned or countenanced, I think, in prior administrations.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think that, first of all, we don't know. You're right. We don't know how the court's going to rule, but the people that watch the court more closely than we do on a daily basis are able to glean from different questions and the demeanor and posture of different justices what way they're going to vote. And it seems, in fact, that you're right, that they're going to allow in Oklahoma a Catholic school, a private school, to get a private religious school to use state funds for that. And I think that we saw a hint of that in a Maine case, which to my detriment, I mentioned the other day when we talked about this. However, I also said I don't know all the details of the Maine case. I've got to look them up. It was a case from about 2-3 years ago, and I didn't look them up. But it was a similar type of case in Maine where it was about having a charter school that was taking some funds that were public funds in order to have it continue operating. And so there seems to be a lean toward that in the effort on the conservative side to help make education in this country better, but also to get religion back into schools. And, they could do it in one fell swoop. They can take down the Department of Education while at the same time use the courts to get religion much more aligned with schools in terms of spending federal dollars there. And then these are the results of that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Department of Education because McMahon, what is it, Linda McMahon? She was mentioning that this is something very important. Finally, we get good religious teaching into some of these schools, and why shouldn't the U.S. government support that, et cetera? So,
right.
that's kind of the party line at the moment. And
it's also, Mark, been the
Yeah.
party line for decades. I mean, prayer in school is essentially the grandfather of this, the fight to keep prayer in school, to mandate prayer in school. It goes back even to the "In God We Trust" on our currency. These sorts of arguments are not unfamiliar to this court, but the court and now has a makeup that's more receptive to these arguments.
It's such a good point. I mean, it's maybe the creep, the creep that we've seen, the slow creep, and this all of a sudden, the dam breaks. But speaking of messaging and speaking of those things that the administration, gets out there, it looks like the messaging around the economy is changing. The kind of, I'm going to rescue you on day one. You're going to just see all the prices and all this inflationary stuff just go away in the first hour that I'm president. I may not even need to be president to be. This is obviously, it was a falsehood when he said it. It was just blowing sunshine when he said it. It seemed he must have known that, I would suggest. But more to the point, now with the economy not only not rescued by a president, but horribly damaged by a president who seems committed to some horribly flawed policies, the new messaging is we may have to wait a while. There are going to be some tough times. This Christmas is going to be a little tougher than Christmases past. It's an odd line from a guy who usually is just blowing that sunshine, right? So it
is, but in his mind, it's also a setup for December 13th press conference or appearance or rally. Remember when I told you back in the spring that Christmas might not be so good? Look at how good Christmas is. So they can manufacture whatever kind of numbers they want in December to talk about how good Christmas is. I mean, this is the way that the Donald Trump White House has always worked. And in fairness, it's the way a lot of White Houses work, is they set you up for low expectations. The problem that he had was setting everybody up for high expectations and then not delivering on them. And so he's going back to what is a more traditional presidential posture when it comes to over-promising, under-promising is always the best, because then you can tell them with great surprise that things are much better than we had predicted, and that creates a different kind of almost exponential relief from the public.
Yeah,
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
And somebody just said, or to blame Biden in advance, which is which is true too.
So true. Michael, we're talking about this whole religious thing. Mark, this religious commission, the commission to which Dr. Phil was just appointed, Michael. Mark, this religion commission will be used to keep the religious wrong happy, and keep the religious wrong happy and go along with the autocracy now underway. I see those you mean that are not in the extreme right wing part.
Well, I think they're calling the religious wrong. It's a play on the religious right.
No, I get that, but what do they mean? So religious wrong is everybody who's not Christo-fascist, right?
Right. Yeah. So that they're gonna have them be happy even with a touch of moderation, or have them go along with whatever, if you're talking about Christo-fascism happening under the watch of Dr. Phil and others, then they'll be happy either way, is the way I read that. But I don't know. I just know that the religious right in America are the savviest of the organized political coalitions, and they will do whatever it takes to get them what they want, and they change their minds with a wink and a nod on candidates and on policy if they think it has a long term beneficial effect for them, such as not supporting Donald Trump, then all of a sudden supporting Donald Trump, getting three conservative justices, overturning Roe v. Wade, having religion back on the docket at the Supreme Court. All of these things work out for them. And I always contrast it to the very far left in the Democratic Party that let the perfect get in the way of the good. The religious right doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's so correct. I was saying before, it's transactional. So much is transactional. Yeah. And I wonder, Michael, I'll just push this along. This is a question that I took a whack at within the last hour. It was asked, will history judge Trump harshly and this administration harshly for what they've done? And I'll I'll kind of just offer it up to you in the same way it was offered to me, and then I'll tell you what I said. But go ahead.
You know, I hope I live long enough to know that history judges Donald Trump the way he ought to be judged. It takes a while for presidential history to be written in America. Only now are people looking back at the administrations of George H.W. Bush and Jimmy Carter and saying that on balance they weren't as bad as advertised, and they're taking a look at people like Ronald Reagan and saying, you know, perhaps not as glorious as advertised. So it does take a while for that history to be written. I think that if Donald Trump changes the presidency permanently and not just limited to his presidency or perhaps the one that succeeds him if it's from the Republican Party, then I think that they will judge him harshly. But if he succeeds in sort of passing along and making his personality and his way of ruling, which I don't think will happen, by the way, an enduring thing, then I think that the people who judge that will say that he had an impact on the presidency and changed the way we govern America. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think everything with him is unwitting and personal and done with a chip on his shoulder and with vendettas and retribution in mind all the time. And I don't think that's certainly not what has defined the presidency for the most part for the first 250 years of the country.
Right. And I'm
telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
Yeah. So what you end up with him doing, I think, is a lot of damage potentially, such that I think, and this is what I was saying, I mean, the trail of breadcrumbs to him is so clear. I don't think you can have a whole revisionist view in 30 years as to what happened in 2025. You know what I mean?
No question. And the nice thing about presidential, executive orders is they're the most easily undone things in politics and in governance. So that's a great thing that people who are opposed to the president have, is that just about everything is temporary. What isn't temporary, like I've talked about before, is how he has changed our perception of media and how we get our information. That is enduring and that is dangerous. And I think probably there's a permanence to a lot of it too, unfortunately.
I saw that the Senate has, because I'm a tree hugger, I care about this, but we should all care, I think, about the fact that the Senate is voting to overturn the EPA rule that limits 7 hazardous air pollutants. I mean, this is the business now of the EPA, is essentially undoing the protections that gave us cleaner air.
Yeah. Operative word there, business, and that's what.
Thank you. That's exactly right. It was a 52-46 party line vote, and it was the first time in the 55-year history of the Clean Air Act that Congress has moved to weaken the power of this law.
Yeah.
It's the way we're going now, Michael.
It is the way we're going. It's the way, there is a seesaw to it as well, right? I mean, when Democratic administrations come in, they do less of this. And that was one of the appeals to a lot of moderate Democrats of Jeb Bush, going back into his brief and now almost satirical run for president because of what Donald Trump did to him. But Jeb Bush, as governor of Florida, was a little more environmentally sound. And a lot of people thought, I mean, it was not a dream to environmentalists, but in comparison to what we've seen since and what was on the table then. And what people thought then was that, okay, maybe the Republicans are taking a turn toward moderation on the environment and they're listening up because of offshore drilling and some of the compromises he made. Well, that didn't happen, obviously. And that hard right turn has stayed hard right, and it does seesaw. So when a Democrat comes in, they try and lift some of this. They protect wildlife and wildlife refuges and all of that. But what the problem that there is right now is that there's no pushback possible on votes, and certainly not from the EPA. When you stack the deck, that's why you stack the deck.
I just quickly want to address two things. One is corruption, and the other is the situation with deportations. Let me get to the corruption first.
Yeah.
I think one of the clearest things that this administration is completely and openly corrupt. There's so many ways in which you can funnel money into the Trump organization. There's so many ways in which the Trump organization, in the guise of government or justice, can shake down everything and everyone. They've done it with legal institutions. I'm talking about lawyers who are now doing $100 million of pro bono work because Trump just shook them down with the threats of the government going after them. Same is true at ABC, CBS, and even at Comcast, et cetera. So against
Glad
that
you
backdrop,
mentioned them. And also, the pro bono work is not the kind of pro bono work you wish more lawyers would do. It's pro bono work within the confines of what Donald Trump says should be pro bono work.
To defend Trump in a case or whatever it might be. I mean, you're obligating yourself to all these things. So it was with great interest that when his first crack at the tariffs came out, which is just a way, I saw it as a way to shake down the world. And I think we even talked about the fact that essentially you're setting up a system of patronage where each one of these countries has to come and make a deal with you. And they can offer all kinds of different things, and they may or may not be good for America, but they must be good for Trump. Otherwise, they're going to have a stiff import tax.
I'm
that's
telling
going to
you,
be
these countries are calling us out, kissing my ass.
And so, to that point, Michael, Vietnam had a 46% tariff imposed, yet now Vietnam is getting huge tariff relief and promises of more. What happened? Two things. One, what modest tariffs there were or specific import blocks there were on American goods and services, they're gone. But more importantly, the Trump Organization announcing a multi-billion-dollar series of projects in Vietnam. They are partnering up in Vietnam and working on multiple investments worth billions of dollars in golf courses, hotels, and real estate projects in Vietnam. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about that kind of corruption.
The corruption is unprecedented. The emoluments violations, unprecedented. How he makes money. I mean, he's selling cryptocurrency, which is unheard of for a U.S. president to be profiting in that way off of his own name, and apparently just made a gazillion dollars doing it. It's easier to push around a country like Vietnam, which, with due respect to Vietnam and the Vietnamese, is not as big a player on the stage as China is, as the European Union, as even Canada. We heard Mark Carney in accepting his victory the other night talk about how we're not going to be pushed around. We're going to find business elsewhere. We're going to avoid these tariffs because we have other options. Vietnam is much more easily influenced by this sort of a thing, and it will probably happen in other countries as well. But these tariffs were not about Vietnam, even though they do a lot of manufacturing, and we import a lot of some of cheaper goods as well as sort of mid-range goods from Vietnam. It's not the same player as some of these other bigger countries.
I mentioned then also the deportations.
Did you guys talk about the vote that happened in the House committee?
I don't know that we did. Did we, Kim? Kim? Somebody? No? Tell us.
Well, let me just mention it briefly because it has something to do with this. With this, there was an amendment in yesterday in a Judiciary Committee hearing where one of the amendments to, again, the minority doesn't have very much that they can do, but Representative Pramila Jayapal, who is a Democrat from Washington, who was and maybe still is the chair of the Progressive Caucus in there, she wanted to make sure while they were doing this immigration work that she put a bill in that ICE cannot detain nor can they deport any U.S. citizens under any circumstances. And GOP lawmakers in that committee killed that amendment. So this is U.S. citizens. So what they're saying is you should be able to deport U.S. citizens if you are ICE as well. And it's a bridge that has never been crossed.
So what is the likely outcome? Obviously, the president's indicated that he wants that, right?
And the likely outcome is that it will go. I mean, if it comes out of Congress and no Republicans vote against it, then the courts will challenge it because it is blatantly unconstitutional, which hasn't stopped them before, but it is blatantly unconstitutional. It is a story that everybody who watches this show and listens to it should read and share, because this is really where we're getting into constitutional crisis when they're talking about rounding up, allowing ICE to round up U.S. citizens and deport them. It's saying, oh, you're a repeat offender, right? This three strikes law was ruled unconstitutional in some states, but this is the one strike law. If you are or the many strikes law, not only are we going to leave you in jail, we're going to send you to another country to go to jail. And this is
the other thing about ICE is that they're a sloppy crew, man. I mean, they just busted into that family in Oklahoma's house. They ransacked their house. They seized their belongings. She's a U.S. citizen, mother of 3 daughters. And the family is, she says, traumatized. Their stuff was wrongly subjected both to search and seizure. And now they said, oh, our bad. It was the wrong. It was the wrong.
As we see with the Abrego Garcia case too, these mistakes, they matter because they're people and they are against the law. And so I urge everybody to pay more attention to what happened in the Judiciary Committee in the House. And these are, to me, that was among the most jarring things I've heard in these 103 or 4 days.
All right. We are, I'm told that we have to say goodbye to you.
We do indeed. I'm sorry, but I'll be back. Again.
Okay. Well, don't say it with that tone of resignation. It's kind of
no.
Oh, girl, baby, girl.
Well, I may have to
even play.
We can do our business here. I may have to pull a Jim Avila next Friday, but I'm not sure yet. I may.
Okay. Well, let us know. I mean, because you're irreplaceable, but we will replace you.
Thank you very much. And I know you will.
Michael, thank you. So long, Michael Shure. Big fan. Keep it going. How to give me a farewell? Do you have?
Keep it on. Yeah.
Keep on, keep it on, baby. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's
in your
Michael Shure.
soul.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Spring ka-ching, baby. Let's do it.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
100% effective. How about that?
There is no defense for my conduct.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Smash it with your iron rod. Seriously, what the?
Right on, everybody. We are in the middle of Spring Ka-ching. It's our big spring fundraiser. Thanks to everybody who may be newcomers to joining us through the world of Patreon and PayPal. There are links to Patreon and PayPal under all our videos. Under this show, you'll see a hot link. Click on it, and you can become part of that community. You can increase the amount that you support us. I know these are tough economic times for many, but this show has entered an interesting period here on YouTube because our YouTube ad dollars are way down for a lot of reasons. And a lot of those reasons have to do with our political perspective. And Ginny Ross, it's a tough grind, but I listen every day. Who is this dishy new guy with the golden baritone? Swoon. Ginny Ross, come on for Ginny Ross. I love it. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And again, if you want to support the show, it's themarkthompsonshow.com. You can go to that website, and there are click-throughs to Patreon and PayPal. Gracie Valenti won with a $10 super chat. Been following Mark for years on KFI. What's that?
Look at the cute little kitty face.
That is like my favorite avatar. Oh,
adorable.
Been following Mark for years on KFI. Love this unchained version of him, and happy to have found you here on YouTube. Thanks. Gracie, thank you. I don't get a lot of KFI crossover necessarily that is mentioned anyway. So it's very cool that you are one of those people who comes out of that world. Here's to a great host and $7 for the mug. That's for Michael Shure. We will direct a mug his way. I promise. I promise. I promise. Kim
Yes.
I'd love to get a little news in if we can, and then I've got the culture blaster, Michael Snyder. Commish, before I get to Kim's news, is there anything in sports I need to know? I saw the Pistons go down in the NBA playoffs last night.
Yeah, a good amount of teams getting eliminated from the playoffs. Pistons, young and upcoming. The Knicks are horrible to watch. They're very slow. They're trying to get fouls, but nothing too big sports related. I'm enjoying playoffs. We'll wait for more playoffs to happen for me to give further updates.
All right. Because
go Warriors.
Warriors, go Warriors, yeah. What is that? Dr. Phil is chloroformed to the Thanksgiving kidney harvest.
What?
I don't even know what that means, but it's funny. Yeah, Dr. Phil is snuffing out the Thanksgiving kidney harvest. I don't know. It's a very I maybe someone can explain it. I think it's funny, but I don't know.
I wonder what RFK is going to push against for our Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh yeah, that's right. Got to even get to RFK stuff. Got a couple of bites from him. We'll have to push that to next week. I've got a lot of stuff for next week. That crypto thing is such a big deal, and I will tell you more about that story. It's wild. There's a way to make money every which way for the Trump administration, and it's just dark money. I mean, again, I don't mind people, but this just seems to be an administration, directed toward exploitation on a level we've never seen financially. So. And it would be one thing if everything else was click-clacking along well, but, America's economy is being ruined while the Trump economy is being helped immensely. So, Kim's news, smash the like button like a boss, if you would. It's a way that we
with your iron
are also
rod.
measured in the algorithms of YouTube. Thank you, all of you who've been part of our big spring ka-ching as it continues. Kim's news, and as I say, after that, we'll get to, we'll get to the culture blaster. So, again, thanks for being here. Much more to come.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. President Trump says he is going to strip Harvard University's tax-exempt status. Trump making the announcement in a post on Truth Social, adding, "It's what they deserve." It comes after the White House asked the IRS to take away the school's status last month after Trump threatened to stop funding at top schools to pressure them to get rid of DEI programs, among other things. President Trump's new budget proposal calls for a mix of domestic spending cuts and increased spending on his priorities like border security and the U.S. military. In a 40-page letter to Congress, Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought said the cuts would lead to significant savings. The blueprint for fiscal 2026 also calls for increasing the debt ceiling. Wait, why do we have to increase it if we're saving money, cutting all kinds of costs?
Strange about that, isn't it?
Huh.
Yeah, it's almost as though they're not being
Flexing.
straight with us. Yeah, when they tell us how much money they're saving.
As mentioned earlier, President Trump wants to rename Veterans Day Victory Day for World War I. Veterans Day observed on November 11th to mark the end of the First World War. The president also said he's renaming VE Day, which is observed May 8th, to Victory Day for World War II. So every war will have its day. The money transfer service Zelle is experiencing some issues. According to Down Detector, users reported not being able to send money from bank to bank about 6 a.m. Eastern time, although some issues were being reported last night as well. In a statement, Zelle said they are aware certain users at some financial institutions are not able to access the service. South Texans will vote in an election on Saturday to decide whether to convert a small coastal stretch at the southern tip of the state into a city named Starbase. The town is home to Elon Musk's rocket company SpaceX, where it designs, builds, and launches its Starship rockets. He wants to make it Starbase City. Voters will be choosing the first mayor and 2 city commissioners of Starbase, Texas, as well.
No.
Legal team for alleged United Healthcare CEO shooter Luigi Mangione is trying to have New York State drop the murder charges against him. Mangione's team filing a motion arguing the state case and federal charges violate the double jeopardy clause and the 14th Amendment due process clause. By the way, the Suspect in the case, 26-year-old Mangione, has pleaded not guilty to stalking and to murder charges in connection with the deadly shooting of Brian Thompson. California, canceling vacation payouts for state workers due to budget cuts. They did this to spoil our Christmas. In the 2022-23 fiscal year,
Go ahead.
the state paid more than $98 million for cashing out unused vacation time, but
oh my God,
the program is being suspended for a second year. Uncertainty in the state's budget is reportedly the reason. Employees are encouraged to use their accrued time off instead. Use it. Don't bank it. We're not paying you for it right now.
Yeah, my God.
No, no, no.
Okay.
Prince Harry says he's been cut off from his father, King Charles. In a new interview with the BBC, Harry says he doesn't know how much longer his father has to live. He says he won't speak to me because of all the security stuff. Harry's protection was downgraded in 2020 when he stepped down from the royal family and moved to the United States with his wife. Harry says he's now seeking reconciliation with his father, who is fighting cancer.
Wow. Tough spot.
UC Berkeley student soon to graduate may never walk again. Apparently, the student was paralyzed in a fall at a fraternity. The parents of 21-year-old Badna Badi say their daughter was weeks away from graduating Berkeley with a degree in data science. She's now paralyzed from the waist down in an Oakland hospital after falling 12 feet off of a metal stairway at the Phi Kappa Tau frat house April 19th. An event was being held at the frat as part of Cal Day, part of the university's open house. The proposed Dodger Stadium gondola project facing a setback. A state appeals court rejecting Los Angeles Metro's approval of an environmental impact report for this project. The court decision requires Metro to set aside its approval until a revised environmental impact report is completed. This project would link Dodger Stadium to Union Station and Chinatown at Los Angeles State Historic Park via a suspended gondola system.
No.
Funded by former Dodgers owner Frank McCourt, who still owns the Dodger Stadium parking lot.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Comedian
It was kind of a wild deal when they sold the Dodgers. They hung on to the parking lot rights.
Yeah,
which is kind of clever. I guess that's what super
ka-ching,
wealthy
ka-ching.
people do. Yeah, they do super clever stuff like that. Yes.
Thank you. Comedian Ruth Buzzy is dead at the age of 88. Buzzy, best known for the many characters she played on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In in the late 60s and early 70s. Her family announced on Facebook that she passed away yesterday in her home in the state of Texas. A California packaging company is introducing a new shipping cooler that could transform how temperature-sensitive products are moved across the world. It's called the Recycooler, made of recyclable paper and fiber, and it offers extended producer responsibility, propelling a shift toward more sustainable products in the United States. Recycoolers can apparently keep contents of frozen or refrigerated items cold for more than 100 hours.
Wow.
The rollout of the new shipping cooler comes as lawmakers take aim at hard-to-recycle plastic and foam. And lastly, I know this is the story of the day, almost half of Americans say they believe the government hides UFO information.
Oh, my gosh.
A poll done by the esteemed...
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
News Nation found 44% of those surveyed believe information is being hidden. 28% disagree, saying, no, they're not hiding anything.
Wow.
The poll found young Americans are particularly suspicious, with 49% of Gen Z respondents and 48% of millennials believing in government UFO secrecy, compared to just 34% of baby boomers. The findings come after congressional hearings and Pentagon reports acknowledged unexplained encounters by military personnel.
Man.
I love Tesla.
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.com.
Oh, yeah, baby. I had the stovetop espresso this morning, and it was delish. It's a little more trouble to make the espresso on the stovetop, but some of that ritual of making it is what I'm into. Such good stuff. And we have some of the cold brew brewing on the counter right now.
I'm down to my last scoop of my 5-pound bag of vanilla tea, so it's time for me to reorder.
God.
What?
Yeah. I know. Cliff put it together especially for me. Usually you can't buy the 5-pound bag of tea, but he knows how much I love it. And so he let me order a big old bag of it. And now I have to ask him if I can order it again.
That's great. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. You can ask and you can pick. They're tasting notes on all of these different beans, all of these different teas, all these different spices. So much there. I'm telling you, every bit that we get in, every new pot I brew, it's like an adventure for my taste buds for real. I love it. It is a wonderful, even Michael Snyder. And, Michael is one of those people, he's never got a kind word to say. He's a critic. He's always can find you love it too, don't you, Michael Snyder?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I scored some of this off of your counter in the
I know.
kitchen.
I leave some on the counter for Michael Snyder as he comes in. So even
is he rifling around in your kitchen and looking in your cabinets while you're doing the show?
Ocotillo, espresso. Come on, Kim, back off.
Order as much as you want. It's a boutique roastery, so this is all freshly grown crop. That's the key to the taste. You can knock around the internet. You can get discounted beans, but you won't find anything fresh like this at some low-cost roastery. This is a boutique roastery, and I want you to get 10% off. So once you get everything going, everything that you want, a 2-pound bag, a 5-pound bag, a 1-pound bag, whatever, tea, coffee, spice, etc., make sure at checkout you use our discount code MARKT, and you'll get 10% off. Rev P says, I just placed my Coachella Valley coffee order yesterday. I got the usual 2 pounds of Sumatra and a pound of English breakfast tea. Right on. Nice. Rev, you've got the right idea. Everybody, enjoy the magic if you haven't already. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark T at checkout gets you our discount. And enjoy.
I'm Kim McAllister, possibly in the top 5 of McAllisters, on the Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Christians, I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Oh, right on, everybody, right on. I'm excited.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm excited because we're at that Friday moment. I don't know if you're aware of this, Michael. We're in the middle of spring ka-ching.
I am totally aware of it. I'm glad to be a part of the spring ka-ching.
It's a big fundraising effort we have going, and Romania Animal Rescue Inc. is helping us out with a super sticker for $20. Thank you, Romania Animal Rescue Inc. Romania Animal Rescue Inc. Go to their website, check them out. There's all the support that they have shown us. You certainly can give them a look and see maybe if you don't want to support them. Chaplain Fred with a $5 super chat says, hi, Mark. Glad to see you back. Just wanted to say that I'm very grateful for Kim keeping the fort strong and on point. Kim, you kept the fort strong and you kept it on point. Nice job.
Really nice. Thanks, Chaplain Fred.
Yeah, that's the chaplain. There's a certain gravitas, an import that he
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. So well done. Chaplain Fred calls it out. All right, Michael, are you ready to go with all your stuff? Yeah, a simple nod will do. Are you? You want to clear your throat or do whatever you do? Okay.
I am relatively ready.
Okay, all right. Without any further delay, it is Friday. This man knows movies. He knows music. He knows streaming. It's quite impressive, from the superhero films to the comic books to whatever, to the esoteric Korean film with subtitles. He knows it all. He comes and goes. A rainbow. He's the great culture blaster, Michael Snyder. Hi, Michael.
Hi, and an official greeting to you, Mark. Glad you're back in the captain's chair. I know you've been ducking me for the past few weeks. It's okay.
Yeah, it's true. I'm sorry. Nothing personal.
I know, but hi to Kim, to Albert, and to Tony, wherever he is, and especially to the best audience imaginable.
Oh, I love it when you suck up to the audience.
Believe
early.
me, no,
It's
I read
good.
your comments in the chat, although it
yeah.
has to be after the fact since I'm so busy imparting my takes on film, TV, music, art, nightlife, sports, and politics when we're in progress. And I am grateful for those of you who listen and react to my segment with your insights and recommendations. You know, Vicky, Ricky, Trevor, Phineas, teacher Lori, who makes the occasional suggestion while I'm in transit here on the air. But you guys are the best. And speaking of the audience, and we mentioned this on the intro, I'm glad to be part of the Spring Ka-Ching Pledge Drive here on PBS. I'm sorry, I meant the MTS. I'm so sorry. And remember to...
The science is ridiculous.
Give what you can via Super Chat, PayPal, and Patreon. Don't give until it hurts, but do give until the Proud Boys take us away to the re-education camps.
Man.
You know that's coming.
It's a dark vision. I'll give you that.
I know. Okay, let's get down to this week's movie reviews. We've got superheroes with emotional problems. The latest projects from 3 Hollywood bad boys, including one with tragic real-life circumstances that postponed its release for many months, and some intriguing indie films from woman directors. But we have to start with the super-powered elephant in the room, Thunderbolts, asterisk. Thunderbolts is the latest and easily one of the best of the Marvel movies, part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You don't necessarily have to have seen everything to enjoy Thunderbolts, but it would help if you maybe saw the Black Widow movie with the ever popular Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, and with the fantastic, and boy, she carries Thunderbolts, the absolutely fantastic and lovely Florence Pugh, who plays Yelena Belova in Black Widow. Just to give you the tiniest bit of backstory, she and Scarlett Johansson's character of the Black Widow were raised in a Russian spy school called the Red Room, and they were located in America undercover as sisters with a father, adoptive, of course, who is in fact the Russian super soldier Red Guardian, and he is played by David Harbour. And Black Widow is a pretty decent standalone film that does have implications on the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you saw that, and if you saw The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was a Disney Plus Marvel TV series with Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, you kind of know enough to jump into Thunderbolts. The basic situation...
Now, are they called Thunderbolts, Michael, for those of us who don't watch this? That's what they're called. They're like a group.
Yeah, they kind of adopt the name. And it's kind of funny how and why they adopt the name.
Right.
But in any event, it's just a super-powered blast. It's anti-heroes.
You really like it.
Anti-heroes, misfits, and conflicted quasi-bad guys band together by circumstance into a fighting team that has to save the world. And if it echoes Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which was very funny and heartwarming, or DC's Suicide Squad, which was funny and not so heartwarming, I mean the second Suicide Squad film, Thunderbolts manages to be its own thing and one of the better Marvel movies in years. They're kind of bouncing back, although the Captain America Brave New World film was, I won't call it a dud, but it was one of their lesser efforts. This gets things back on track. And again, the character of Yelena Belova, who is played by Florence Pugh, is at the heart of this, and she opens the movie at the top of the second largest skyscraper in the world. Is it Malaysia?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
And she jumps off of it. And apparently Florence Pugh did a lot of her own stunt work here. This isn't a Tom Cruise thing. I know they did have a stunt person do the denouement of this leap.
Right.
But if that doesn't get your blood going, I don't know what will. But it happens that Yelena has some serious issues. She's lost her sister, the Black Widow. She feels like she's in a kind of a funk. She doesn't know what her purpose is. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays the CIA head, Valentina. This is kind of a funky name, but you got to get it. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And she is a typical...
What? That sounds like a comic book name.
She is she's a countess. She's a typical kind of government functionary. She is... deep into Black Ops, and she wants to manipulate all these sideline heroes and turn them into kind of weapons for her benefit.
I see.
And she is on the griddle with a Senate investigation, and she's trying to make a case for why she should be director of the CIA, and they're trying to bring her down. And our boy Bucky, played by Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier from earlier Marvel films. And again, you don't have to know too much about this. He's now in the Senate, and he's trying to bring charges against her. She, in the meantime, is gathering all of these misfits. They include the U.S. agent, who is kind of a dime store Captain America, played by Wyatt Russell. Very funny. Ghost, played by Hannah John Kamen, who is kind of her own sort of spy character who can phase in and out of reality. And she's pitting them against one another, and there are some really awful experiments going on at a secret location, kind of a villain's lair. And there, these anti-heroes find that they have something in common. They want to get back at Valentina. But also, there is the victim of one of their experiments, a guy named Bob. And the guy named Bob, who is very much a milquetoast, is played by another really good actor, and that would be Louis Pullman, son of Bill Pullman, and he has a secret. So all of them together are stuck under fire and forced to go after Valentina in some way and reveal these bad things she's done. That's the essence of it. And I have to point out that David Harbour and Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan are all in incredibly good form in this film, and there is a lot of heart and emotion. In many ways, this movie is about mental illness. The character of Bob has some issues as play out over the course of the film, and I don't want to spoil it. And all I can tell you is I was wildly entertained. It was satisfying as a Marvel
you really
fan.
like it. Clearly.
Okay, and let's tell you, it's helmed by a beef producer director, Jake Schreier. It's co-written by a screenwriter of, among other movies, Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow, and one of the main writers for The Bear and Hacks. So
wow. So you got a lot of good pedigree going in there.
Absolutely. It's funny, it's poignant, genuinely awesome action and fight scenes. The whole cast is on point, and the movie itself has so much killer action and genuine heart. And before we move on, the in-theater marketing has been inspired, especially as regards the aspirational aspects of these ragtag anti-heroes. It's a giant Wheaties box, only it says Thunderbolts across it. These are the most unlikely of heroes, and to have them in this fantastic display in theaters, it just really tickled me.
The audience is saying, we got it, we love it, we can't wait to go out there and watch it, go to the theater. Well, what's next?
Okay, here we go. I just wanted to, it's a kind of a passion of mine, these movies.
I understand.
All right, so Nicolas Cage is back. Talk about Hollywood bad boys. This guy is a dynamo, and he always has been. And when he's playing loony or under fire, he is at his best. And The Surfer is about a guy who was raised in Australia, I think Australian and American parents, and he used to surf as a kid in this cove. And his big dream, he's been a successful businessman, his big dream is to buy the house where he grew up, overlooking this cove where surfers like to go. But when he shows up with his teenage son to surf, to bond, to be there at this important place for him while he was growing up, there's a gang of kind of punk, roughneck, criminal type surfers that say, get out of here, no surfing, we don't want you living here. And all hell breaks loose.
No, I love this because, it's based on a true story, kind of.
It's kind of.
There was a group of surfers in Southern California that took over a favorite surfing spot, and they were thuggish about protecting that spot. So this kind of reminds me, anyway, of that story. I'm not saying that it inspired this script, but it's very reminiscent of that problem.
He's trying to finance the house on the phone. He's sitting in the parking area above the cove, and these guys start tormenting him, these punk criminal types.
It. So in the end, does he kick their ass?
I can't even get into that, but
God.
It's the middle of the summer. The heat starts coming down, and he starts breaking down. You're waiting for him to crack, and when he does, it's kind of a bone-shaking, viscera-splashing, tooth-grinding bash. The Surfer. It's directed by Lorcan Finnegan, and it's very entertaining. And it's Nick Cage at his scenery-chewing best. And as things get worse, you are even more involved in it. And oh my God.
I'm excited. So is there two that he likes, The Surfer and Thunderbolts?
Yes,
What's next?
Indeed. Moving on, because we really, really must. Rust is finally coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Another Hollywood bad boy. It's Alec Baldwin. And despite being overshadowed by the accidental on-set shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, inadvertently by star Alec Baldwin, Rust turns out to be, and it sat on the shelf for a little while, it turns out to be a decent, well-acted Western drama in the tradition of the classic John Ford movies of yore. and Baldwin plays kind of a grizzled old outlaw, an older guy, and he ends up with a young boy who has been sentenced to hang for an accidental shooting death. Oh my God!
Wow.
Talk about life imitating art. And they go on the run from Wyoming to Mexico. That's the intent. And there are bounty hunters and sheriffs and miscreants after them on this. And you know, Hutchins did such beautiful work in this. The cinematography is gorgeous, shot in Montana and New Mexico. And it's heartbreaking to think that this talent, this wonderful eye, was snuffed out. But it's all on screen. Rust is, I guess, in select theaters this weekend. And good work by Josh Hopkins as a U.S. Marshal after the Baldwin character and the kid, and Travis Fimmel as a bounty hunter who's kind of a religious nut. So you got all that going on. It's a little long at over 2 hours. Maybe judicious editing would have been in order, but the beauty of the cinematography and the solid performances kind of make it. It's not great, mind you. Joel Souza wrote and directed it. It's solid. And it is in theaters, only select ones, but it's also streaming starting this weekend. The other two films, The Surfer and Thunderbolts, are both in wide release, in case you're wondering.
I said at the time when the whole incident went down and people were saying, oh, they're going to get rid of this movie, you'll never see the light of day. I said, are you kidding? They're going to make sure that they release this movie.
It took almost 2 years, Mark.
But they want, I mean, the commitment and the curiosity factor alone will probably drive some box office.
It's not mediocre. It's better than that. It's good, but again, it's not unfamiliar, the
Got it.
terrain. Okay. You know, one of my favorite films this weekend, I guess we have an embarrassment of them if you're considering the first two I mentioned and how decent Rust was. This movie, Salvable, I don't want something like this to fall through the cracks. It is part boxing movie, you know, where the former boxing phenom ends up on the skids. He's working in I guess you call it a rest home or a, assisted living situation. He's estranged from his now ex-wife and his teenage daughter, and he's trying to keep it together, and he keeps his hand in as a sparring partner at the local gym with the guy who used to be his trainer when he was an Olympic hopeful. So he's there. It's a Welsh seaside town, very picturesque backdrop, and the performance by Toby Kebbell as this guy, as this boxer, is excellent and rich and deep. And Sal is a luckless situation. You know, he's kind of a black hole. Things just don't go well for him, but he's trying his best to hold on to somehow be a good father after he's been a crappy father. But an old buddy of his from the less, shall we say, straightforward days shows up. That's Vince, played by Shia LaBeouf, another Hollywood bad boy.
Wow.
And he's kind of unrecognizable. He has a UK accent. He's got a black beard and like bleached blonde hair, and he is trouble from the second you see him on screen.
And he wants to get him into some kind of heist or something?
Yeah, well, it
feels very heisty. Like.
There are kind of bum fights or unregulated fisticuffs going on, and he wants to have him be the referee at these circumstances, and they're paying him. So it's a little extra money. He wants to buy a house. He wants to have more custody of his daughter, and it's just not working. There are complex performances. LaBeouf is good in a supporting role, and Kebbell is really first rate. Directed by Bjorn Franklin and Johnny Marchetta, written by Franklin. I think that Salvable is a movie people should seek out. It's called Salvable, something that can be saved, but you'll see as things play out. Again, like Rust, it has some familiar tropes involved, but it goes its own way. And the performances are moving, and I recommend Salvable. It is, in fact, in select theaters and also available for streaming. So,
all right, bring us in with a big finish, Michael Snyder.
I'll do what I can. It'll be two parts. We got to get to Bonjour Tristesse. Bonjour Tristesse is a remake and update of the 1958 movie directed by Otto Preminger, which starred Gene Seberg, David Niven, and Deborah Kerr. It's considered a classic. It's about the middle of the summer. It's the French seaside, and a young but budding teenage girl, 18-ish, is there with her good-looking father and his girlfriend, but her late mom's friend shows up, and that kind of throws the entire circumstance into chaos. And in the case of this remake, the 18-year-old girl, Cecile, is played by Lily McInerney. The girlfriend, now, I guess Nalia Harzone, but the pivotal roles of the father, Raymond, and the late mom's friend, Anne, are played by Klaus Bang, who is a wonderful character actor who was in Bad Sisters, among other things, of late, and Chloe Sevigny as Anne. And this causes all kinds of soap operatics. It's not great, but it's done with a lot of care and passion for the original material, and it kind of updates things. Durga Chubose is the name of the director, and she also co-wrote the script based on Francois Sagan's original script, and it's good. It's, again, very much like Salvable and The Surfer. The settings are really kind of lovely. You're you're on the French Riviera. You can't go bad there. And that kind of carries it to an extent. It is in select theaters, and it's also available for streaming. And let's wrap things up with Elektra. In Elektra, with a C, not a K, so don't confuse this Elektra with
The
Marvel's,
superhero.
assassin. A music journalist and his photographer girlfriend meet up with a rock star on the wane and his performance art girlfriend in Rome, in beautiful Rome, and they end up at the artist's palazzo, and things start getting revealed that you didn't expect, and things start going kind of nuts. There's an acid trip. There's some sort of secret plan to steal a object of art. It's very, very engaging and entertaining. Imagine Saltburn crossed with the talented Mr. Ripley, and you have the vibe of Elektra. And one of the best things about Elektra is the fact that the, I guess you'd call her a performance artist, is played by the very engaging, and you must be familiar with her from the, I guess, the movie done by Sacha Baron Cohen. Borat, the Borat film.
Borat,
yeah, it's Maria Bakalova, and she's really pretty great here. The director, again, a woman, Hala Matar, keeps things kind of rolling, and it's kind of sly and subversive, and I was caught up by it. Again, not a great film, but certainly ambitious and kind of well executed. Again, we've sort of been here in a way before, but I liked it. It is, again, in limited theaters, and it is also available for streaming right now. It's called Elektra, and that's it on the movie front.
I am excited. You are someone who's come in with an ebullience and an enthusiasm about these offerings. Even the ones you weren't as crazy about, you still kind of liked. Elektra, the music journalist meets the artist. Sounds like my kind of movie. Things start in a kind of interesting way, and from the primordial ooze, things change, and in the darkness, there's all kinds of plot twists. This is a great, I think, evening for me. Elektra.
It might be. Or you might go to sleep if it's the evening.
Bonjour, tristesse.
Which means, by the way, hello, sadness, for those of you who don't speak French.
Oh, it's the remake of the Otto Preminger movie. Michael very much liked it. And he feels
conditionally.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, conditionally. I see. Okay. So what was the condition?
The condition was that it's sort of studied, and it moves at a very
Moves
languid
too slowly.
pace.
It's a slow burn.
Yes, a slow burn. It's very much in that way, like an afternoon on the Riviera.
Terrific. I'm then not likely to see it soon, but you never know. Maybe in the same. Salvable, the boxer estranged from his family, works in the assisted living facility, and Tony Kebbell and Shia LaBeouf.
Toby Kebbell is the real deal. We've seen him in a number of films over the past few years.
Excited about seeing
This
Salvable.
is
You
one
liked it.
I recommend. Yes.
All right. Rust, the Baldwin movie, much anticipated. In the center of all that controversy, Michael says it's actually not bad. Maybe a little long.
Yeah.
But not bad.
I'm not Mr. Western, and I still was carried along by this.
The Surfer is the Nicolas Cage film.
Woohoo!
Gets a place by his favorite surfing cove, and then the surfer thugs come after him. These are tough surfers. They are not all about hanging out and hanging out.
No, it's almost
They're about hanging out.
It's almost a cult. It's kind of very culty.
He loved it.
Vicious. They're vicious.
I can't wait to see that. It's called The Surfer. Thunderbolts. That's the superhero film. Yelena Belova, leads it off with apparently a stunt to outstunt other stunts.
Other than Tom Cruise, who does the same sort of jumping off a building thing in one of those Mission Impossible films, yes. But
Michael loves it.
It's the acting.
He really loved Thunderbolts. You had all the reasons. We spent about an hour and a half on it, and he really liked it. Michael, we love you. We love that you come through. We love to see you in the flesh.
You can check me out on the Voice of San Francisco website. That's thevoicesf.org, where I have a piece about the recent smash hit Sinners and The Ugly Stepsister, horror with conscience. Great stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to see that Sinners. I know I'm falling way behind. I look forward to reading your stuff on thevoicesf.org, and I look forward to your Friday visits, Michael. And you come and go on a rainbow.
Go Dubs, go Giants. See you next week, people.
Yeah, right on. Michael Snyder really making the most of his visit. I was very impressed. I gotta tell you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
A lot of people just would, they'd sleepwalk through it. Not Michael. He brings it all the time, I've got a major announcement on this show because we are in the middle of our Spring Ka-Ching fundraiser for the late spring period. I feel like this actually does fall into the
Major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
I appreciate everybody at every level for any amount that participates in Spring Ka-Ching. Thank you, Maya R. Finch, with a $10 super chat. And it's funny, I think I mentioned Myra before. I love that name. Love this show. Great chat people, too. It is a great chat community and a great community around this show. I also want to recognize $200 sent in by my agent. My agent who watches this show, Mike Schalbetter, and his lovely wife, Samantha. She was a drummer in Courtney Love's band. She is a badass. Yeah.
She's cool. Okay.
She is just unreal. And that's just like one part of her. Anyway, they sent $200 in, and with love, Mike and Samantha. That's so cool. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate everybody who's ridden to our rescue a little bit during this Spring Ka-Ching. We'll keep it going next week and try to finish the spring out with a little rally that'll kind of get us out from under the tough spot that we're in on this channel with ad revenue that's gone down because of YouTube. I was mentioning a lot of reasons, that some of which I understand, some of which I don't. So really do appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Atlantic writer claiming, says Rich, that Elon Musk has fathered more than 100 children with a baby mama harem. Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Really?
He's got a plan. He's got a plan.
That's a lot of babies. I guess if you're the world's richest man, you can afford to pay child support for 100 little babies.
We've got a couple of people who write for The Atlantic coming up as guests in the next couple of weeks. Great show, says Jane O. Mark and Kim and Albert and Michael and Michael and Michael at Intrepid Chatters. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Jane O. And really appreciate everybody's support. We've had a really fun show, as well as some interesting stuff along the way. I thought Florida was very strong, Albert, I might add. Our Florida magic today, I thought you really brought it, sir. We had to kind of rush it. But I don't know what... oh, I get it. Now True Tech is expected...
Weird. For some reason, you're muted, Mark, and I can't hear you. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I thought maybe it was me for a second, but I think it's you.
Yeah,
I blame you, Albert. How can
I blame you?
I don't know what the anyway. All right.
I blame you.
Yes, thank you.
We have some great guests coming up on the show on Monday. Gary Dietrich, Jared Yates Sexton.
Oh, Jared Yates Sexton is terrific.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
What?
Yeah, you got to scoot through here on Monday. It's going to be a great show. We've got a great week next week actually planned. After Party Live. Have a great weekend, everyone. Until Monday. Bye-bye.